Couple days back, Donald Trump had one of his Oval Office press conference gaggles, and he's also signing a shitload of executive orders, and they are pretty scary. One of them in particular I wanted to talk about, where MAGA Goebbels, Stephen Miller, gets to have a little chat time with the press, and it's some spooky shit. Also, we'll get to an article from Ken Klippenstein about this to explain this a little bit further in more detail. So let's take a look, see this wannabe Nazi's got to say.
Lunatics. Steve, could you say a couple of words?
Yes, Mr. President. This is a very historic and significant day. This is the first time in American history that there is an all-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism, to dismantle Antifa, to dismantle the organizations that have been carrying out these acts of political violence and terrorism. What we have seen, if you look at whether it be going back to the riots that started with Black Lives Matter and all the way through to the Antifa.
Of course, it's always the riots, Black Lives Matter. It's always riots. Of course, January 6th, that was a tourist attraction, right?
Riots, the attacks on ICE officers, the doxing campaigns, and now the political assassinations.
That guy that shot at the ICE facility, he wasn't a lefty. He was an online troll. He was a psychopath. He had been driven crazy by his own brain. That guy was definitely having mental issues. And the whole the writing on the bullets of anti-ICE, I'm sorry, that is not what leftists do. They do not do that. So I'm just picturing Kash Patel grabbing a pen and writing on it, but they are labeling that guy as a lefty, as well as Charlie Kirk's Charlie Kirk's assassin. So
These are not lone, isolated events. This is part of an organized campaign of radical left terrorism. It is structured, it is sophisticated, it is well funded, it is well planned. There is really no parallel like.
Man, that guy is so slimy. They are insinuating that all of these things that they are classifying as of the left are all funded by somebody, and they're going to root it out, whatever it is. I mean, ultimately, Donald Trump wants to go after Act Blue because it's a funding group for the Democratic Party. When you want to send 27, 30, 50 bucks into your local politician, your local Democratic politician, you put it through Act Blue. And Donald Trump was to go after that because ultimately they want to go after the mechanisms of getting Democrats elected. And they're using these shootings, these attacks, labeling them left wing, and then saying that they're doing it because they've been funded by somebody like George Soros or Act Blue. And keep in mind, I want you to listen to him and how many times he says they. They are coming after us. They are radical. They are evil. They are coming for us and for good Christian Americans.
Anything else in the country right now. There is an entire system of feeder organizations that provide money, resources, weapons, and when they're attacking ICE officers, they're attacking federal buildings, or they're isolating public officials for harassment, doxing, intimidation, and ultimately attempted assassination. It is all carefully planned, executed.
All right, what's attempted assassination? The only assassination I saw was the one of Charlie Kirk. So what is he talking about?
And thought through. It is terrorism on our soil. Because of this executive order, Kash and Pam are going to have the tools they need, working with Scott, to take these organizations apart piece by piece. And the central hub of that effort is going to be the Joint Terrorism Task Force, or JTTF, which sits inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
These are the groups that they used to use to go after terrorists in the Middle East. And now that imperial boomerang has come home to us for this. And we're now employing these people, these task force, all of these groups banding together in the government to go after American citizens in the country. Whether they're Democrat or Republican, they're obviously going to be focusing on anybody who's Democrat. But they are using what used to be a group to fight terrorists in foreign countries. Now they're wanting to use it on American citizens on American soil.
But for those at home who are worried about terrorism in this country, they need to understand, because of President Trump's strength, because of his vision, because of his leadership, We are now going to use the entire force of the federal government to uproot these organizations root and branch. And again, that's only possible because of President Trump and his leadership.
Thank you. Steve Cash, please.
Yes, as Steve was saying, Mr. President, thanks to your leadership, crime is going downward in a tremendous fashion.
Crime had been going down for the last couple of years. It's not because of Donald Trump's fucking leadership. This is just a, hey, let me come in here and cup the balls and stroke the shaft of the president. Now, that's Cash Patel and Pam Bondi. Stephen Miller is just evil on his own, and he just wants to have an excuse to go after all of his political enemies. You heard him at the rally at Charlie Kirk's memorial, where he was basically cribbing Goebbels. Very Nazi-esque.
That's what we want for every city in America. And the FBI's premier flagship enterprise, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, are honored to lead this initiative with our partners at Treasury and Homeland Security, because our citizens are being attacked by, as Stephen said, organized violence, and it's being paid for.
Did that guy at the immigration shooting, did that guy come off as coming from an organized group where money was funneled down to him? He was a failed comedian and an online troll. You think George Soros or Act Blue is funneling money to this guy? This is absolutely ridiculous shit. But the problem is that it doesn't matter. These people are here to kiss Donald Trump's ass. And whether it is illegal to classify Antifa as a domestic terror organization, even though they're not an organization, they're just a loose group of people that whenever the Proud Boys come to town, they show up and protest them. But even if that was illegal to classify them as a terrorist organization, and even if they were an organization at all, Donald Trump and co here going after them, it'll still have the same effect. Whether they're classified that way or not, these people are still going to be going after left-wing people. And if you go out looking for something, you're going to find something. It doesn't mean you're going to find something that's true, but you're going to be hunting something down to bring to dear Daddy Trump and say, here, look what I brought you. Some left-wing people's heads on a platter. Are you happy? Will you pat me on the head?
Not by them, by other people. So what we are going to do, combining forces as Scott and I have done in these last few months, is follow the money. People and organizations have collected.
There it is, the money. They're talking about Act Blue. They're talking about Democratic funding organizations for politicians. And they are using the sleight of hand saying that these are the people who are funding the shooters out there, these crazy lone shooters. It's George Soros.
Funds and put them out into the streets of America and organize violence across our country. And thanks to your recognition of this and this executive order and the AG's leadership to lead out and prosecute these individuals, we are properly going to chase them down like the domestic terrorists that they are.
They. What's to stop them from arresting anybody they want and just saying, well, they were Antifa? Or here's a social media post that said, hey, they called us fascists. Look what you made us do. You keep calling us fascists. You keep saying anti-capitalist rhetoric. You're Antifa. You called us authoritarian. Look what you're making us do. You're Antifa. What's to stop them from doing that?
And our streets and our communities are going to be safer because the JTTF and the FBI and Treasury and DHS and DOJ are going to combine forces like never before to root out this new evil that is perpetrated.
New evil. It's literally the playbook that they did with the war on terror, except now they're bringing it home. When George W. Bush said that those people were evil, and that has now made this okay for Donald Trump and Cash Patel and Stephen Miller to classify everybody that they don't like, everybody that they consider on the left, to be evil and terrorist and Antifa.
Our criminal activities across our societies, and we are just so thankful for your leadership and recognition of it. It's not easy to do.
Look, we could go through this entire thing. It is scary as shit. This whole presser of signing executive orders, it's all batshit crazy. It really is psychotic. I wonder if I talk to some of my Republican friends and family members, it's like, have you ever really sat down and watched Donald Trump and his group of bandits speak for an hour? listen to the sycophancy of them kissing his ass, and then all of the fascist rhetoric that they talk. It just blows my mind. Well, I wanted to get to this. This is Ken Klippenstein wrote this, and he's talking about this particular executive order that he's standing there with his werewolf tooth thing going on here. It's called NSPM-7s, labels common beliefs as terrorism indicators. So they're just going to be calling anybody that they want to arrest. They're going to call them terrorists. They're going to call them Antifa, and doesn't matter if they are or not. They're just going to arrest them. New directive targets anti-Christian, anti-American, whatever the hell anti-American is. If you say something bad about the president, is that anti-American? And anti-capitalism, which, by the way, one of the big reasons why we're in the pickle that we're in is because we live under unfettered, unregulated capitalism, and it has led to the point that we're in today, when the corporate state and the government combine forces and rule over all of us. That's fascism. Anyway, let's get to what Ken has to say. With the mainstream media distracted by the made-for-TV drama of James Comey's indictment, which, yeah, I'm not talking about that today. Honestly, it's a wild goose chase, and it really doesn't make any difference. Jim Comey is not going to get punished for anything. He didn't do anything. But everybody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about this important thing. Trump has signed a little-noticed National Security Directive identifying anti-Christian and anti-American views as indicators of radical left violence. Called National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, it has been referred to as NSPM-7. This is the first time in America that there is an all-of-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism. Trump's Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller said, referring to the issue, to the extent that all major media notices the directive at all, even C-SPAN incorrectly labeled it as an executive order, like this week's designation of Antifa as domestic terror organization. Trump signs executive order on countering domestic terrorism. By the way, just did a story about the guy, the Trump supporter that went in and burned down a church and shot a shitload of people, killing 4 people. That guy was a very conservative guy with access to an AR-15, and he killed people. Whether it was political or not, it doesn't really matter. They're not talking about that. They're talking about when ICE comes to town and you go out to protest, now you're going to be labeled as anti-government, anti-America, Antifa, and they will classify you as a domestic terrorist and they'll arrest you. We're looking at the funders, whatever those funders are. It is hard to overstate how much different the NSPM-7 is from the over 200 executive orders Trump has frantically signed into coming back into office. An executive order publicly lays out the course of the day-to-day federal government operations, whereas a national security directive is a sweeping policy decree for the defense, foreign policy, intelligence, and law enforcement apparatus. National security directives are often secret, but in this case, Trump administration chose to publish it. Only the 7th since he has come to office. Previous national security directives have been controversial, even publicly earth-shaking. In 1980, for example, President Jimmy Carter signed the top-secret Presidential Directive 59, directing new nuclear warfighting policies that persisted until the end of the Cold War, when revealed PD 59 caused a public furor. Similarly, President George W. Bush signed a series of classified national security directives after 9/11, the most famous of which authorized the NSA's unlawful domestic intercepts, a directive that wasn't publicly revealed until 4 years later. That was when they started using the NSA to spy on Muslim churches just to see if there was any terrorism afoot. Of course, there wasn't. And 4 years later, when this comes out, it looks really bad. The NSPM-7, countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence, President Trump directs the Justice Department, the FBI, and other national security agencies and departments to fight his version of political violence in America, retooling a network of joint terrorism task force to focus on leftist political violence in America. The vast counterterrorism army made up of the federal, state, and local agencies would, as Trump aide Stephen Miller said, form a central hub of that effort. NSPM NSPM-7 directs a new national strategy to disrupt any individual or groups that foment political violence, including before they result in violent political acts. That's pre-crime, folks. That's we're going to arrest you before we think that you're going to commit a crime. Oh, you're saying something right now that we find offensive. We're just going to arrest you now because who knows? You might be a crazy, extreme Antifa, fascist, Marxist, leftist, whatever. We're going to get you, and we're going to lock you up before you even do the crime. Pre-crime. Wasn't that the Minority Report, a Tom Cruise movie? In other words, they are targeting pre-crime to reference... Oh, shit, I didn't even read that. He actually says it. To reference the Minority Report. The Trump administration isn't only targeting organizations, groups, but even individuals and entities whom NSPM-7 says can be identified by any of the following indicators of violence. Anti-Americanism. That's vague as fuck. Anti-capitalism. So you say anything bad about a corporation becoming a monopoly, that's anti-capitalist. You're getting arrested. Anti-Christianity. Saying, hey, I'm an atheist. Yeah, I don't agree with the Christians. Locking you up. Who's to say that they're not going to be able to do this? Seriously. They will use any excuse that they have to arrest you. Why not make up some shit? Support for the overthrow of the United States government. Extremism on migration. So if you're out there protesting ICE for snatching up your neighbor from his home or his place of work, you're just out there protesting against the fascism and the secret police, that's extremism on migration. Extremism on race. So if you happen to be part of the Black Lives Matter movement and you're out there protesting because a cop killed another young black man, that's extremism on race. Extremism on gender. So if you are gay or trans or whatever, or you just happen to be a defender of the trans or the gay community, that's extremism on gender, according to them. Hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family. What leftist, what person on the left is giving an American family a hard time for being an American family? They're just making up this psychosis in their head. Hostility towards those who hold traditional views on religion. Hostility towards those who hold traditional views on morality. What is traditional? Who's defining the tradition? Is it Trump and co? Because I don't think that Donald Trump has any room to talk about morality, religion, or family. He's got, 5 kids from 3 different marriages. He's not moral at all. He's a criminal. He's a crook and a half. He lies constantly all the time. And there's not a religious bone in Trump's body, but hey, it's not going to stop him from going on this fascist tour. The United States requires national strategy to investigate and disrupt networks in entities and organizations that foment political violence so law enforcement can intervene in criminal conspiracies before they result in violent political acts. So, look, it goes on. You should read this Substack. Ken Klippenstein is very good at what he does. He is a proper investigative reporter. I would suggest that you sign up for his Substack. He's very good. But just to complete my thought on this, this is them opening up the door. It's just another step towards fascism, but this is a really huge leap because now they are combining forces of lots of policing agencies together into one entity under Stephen Miller, who is one of the scariest individuals that I've ever seen. The guy is a fucking lunatic, and he wants to crush his enemies. He said it before. Donald Trump has said it before. Hate your enemies, crush your enemies. They're basically saying that half of the country are left-wing extremist, potential terrorist Antifa killers. And they are using these handful of cases that they have already agreed. The assassin for Charlie Kirk was a left-winger. They just agree. It is what it is. The guy who shot at the migrant facility definitely is. That transgender person who was using all kinds of racist and sexist rhetoric written on the gun clips of the gun that they used. Since they're trans, they're definitely Antifa, and they're definitely radical left-wing lunatics. So they're going to use any means necessary to arrest you and put you in a prison. You think that all these new prisons that are going up are just going to be for migrants? They can use them on you too. Donald Trump is not kidding. You think he's wanting to leave the White House after all the decorating he's done, after paving over the Rose Garden, after building his brand new ballroom, a $200 million ballroom? Charlie who? Charlie Kirk what? Oh yeah, no, I'm doing great. Got a ballroom. You think that they're not going to turn this around and use it on you? Because that's the plan. That is what this National Security Directive is all about. We are going to be able to arrest you for pre-crime because we already determined that you are on the left and that you are a potential terrorist. So off to jail with you. Donald Trump is the guy that started off his presidency by calling Barack Obama a Muslim coming from a Muslim terrorist country, and Hillary Clinton needed to be locked up. Well, now he is moving forward with this fascism because he's got all the power in the world. He's got the House, he's got the Senate, he's got the Supreme Court, he's got the presidency. Now he's got $170 billion more dollars for ICE facilities and for hiring a whole bunch of secret police Gestapo thugs. And they're using this directive as their way of getting in there. And it's all terrifying. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.